Hey up! Right, I can't believe it's only just over 2 weeks until Christmas. I really don't know where this year has gone. Now, regular viewers of this channel that have been watching me for, a few years will know that I always take a break over the Christmas and New Year. It's the only time of the year, really, where I got a bit of a holiday. Now, just checking my calendar to see how Christmas falls this year. My last video of this year will be on the 23rd of December, which is the day before Christmas Eve. Now, that's quite prophetic. What I actually plan to do on that last video, I think, is a bit of a Christmas tradition. A motorcycle ghost story, or at least I think it's a ghost story. Something that happened to me, something that I experienced exactly 39 years to the day on the 23rd. So if you don't want to miss that and you're not a subscriber, subscribe to this channel, and either way, just a message to all subscribers really, hit the notification bell and ensure that your notifications are enabled. Looking at the analytics on this channel, although this channel does get good views, only a very tiny percentage of those views come from, notifications to subscribers, because most people, although they don't realise it, don't have the notifications enabled. And so YouTube doesn't notify them whenever I put a new video. Just as an example, yesterday I received about 6 emails from people telling me about the situation in Oxford. Now, I'd already put the video up about it that morning, but they didn't know, because doubtless they either haven't hit the notification bell or the notifications are not enabled, so YouTube hadn't told them that I'd uploaded that video. And I know this because my analytics tell me that only about 7.9% of the 90,000 people, almost, that are subscribed to this channel actually received a notification. You don't actually have to watch the video that it alerts you about, you can just dismiss it, but it really does help this channel out if, subscribers would ensure that those notifications are enabled. Anyway, I've gone off a bit of a tangent there. What I was trying to say is, I've sort of got my holiday head on now. I'm winding down, ready for Christmas. The cold weather's coming, the beast from the east, as they call it. We've got some winds coming in from Siberia, which is causing a lot of cooling here in the UK. Typical December weather. My computer's telling me that it's only 1 degree centigrade outside, and I think we're going to see colder. In fact, we had the first really hard frost this morning, and unless I'm mistaken, on top of that frost was a smattering of snow. So, from now until I break up, the last couple of weeks of this year for me, I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to use some old footage from the archives. I'm going to try and keep the content light, and I'm just going to take it easy. Because I'm tired, I need a break. I mean, it does get quite relentless, sort of churning 2 videos out a week, every week for a year. So I'm just going to please myself for a couple of weeks. Right, one thing that does always amaze me about this channel in the comments is I've got a lot of people that they like to watch my videos, but they're not motorcyclists and they've never been motorcyclists. They just sort of come along for the ride because they enjoy my videos. And every once in a while, one of these people will say, they've got no intention of ever taking motorcycling up, but they're intrigued. What is the attraction to motorcycling? Which is a good question. I don't think it's anything I've ever tackled in a video before, so I'm going to do that today. Now, you might disagree with this, but this is my video, it's my opinion, it's just the way I see things, and everybody sees things differently. But the way I see it, there are sort of three types of motorcyclists. First of all, there's the thrill seeker. And I know it's not always the case, but these tend to be, by and large, transient motorcyclists. What attracts them is the power and the performance, the speed, the thrill. And to them, motorcycling is a sort of a hobby or pastime. Now, I'm not saying this to be derogatory towards these sort of people. I mean, I've been there myself in my younger days, but my interest in motorcycles, well, let me just say that didn't fill the sort of, it didn't provide the fulfillment that I needed from motorcycling. It was okay for a while, you know, upgrading your bikes to more powerful bikes, faster bikes, but eventually you reach that limit and you just think, well, you know, there's more to this than just going fast. And I think where these people are concerned, the motorcycle is just a tool used to sort of, you know, give them what they want. And quite a lot of these people, sometime in the 40s or certainly by the 50s, they move away from motorcycling. Quite often it's just because they've got it out of the system, or, you know, unfortunately sometimes it's because they've had a bad accident themselves or they've lost a friend. And they move on. You know, it could easily have just been bungee jumping or rock climbing or surfing, kayaking. It just so happens that motorcycles were their choice in pursuit of that adrenaline rush that they were seeking. For them, it was never really about motorcycling, it was about the speed. But the second group are, I don't really know if there's a word to describe them. I would say they are the image-oriented motorcyclists. And this can take many forms. It could be the guys that like to sort of dress up like someone from the 1960s and ride a modern classic. It could be a guy that wants the biggest and the best adventure bike, and he wants to dress up like Ewan or Charlie. Or he may just want to be perceived by other people as, you know, a big badass biker. To them, it's more about image than motorcycling. The motorcycle is just part of their wardrobe. Again, I don't want to be derogatory towards these people. You know, everybody's got a right to do whatever they want to do. But you do see a lot of these guys around, and I always get the feeling that the motorcycle is just a prop that's used to project an image towards other people, to colour other people's perception of that rider. Again, they're not really interested in the motorcycle. You know, they don't do any maintenance themselves. Everything that's done to that bike, it's taken to a dealership to get it done. They'll take the bike out on a sunny weekend, either on their own or with their mates. They'll show their expensive bike off at some tea stop. They'll strut around in their trendy motorcycle clothing. It's a sort of an act, a sort of a role play. They're not really in love with motorcycles and motorcycling. Now, I suppose there are other little sort of subcategories. There's, you know, the commuter, the person that has to use a motorcycle to get to work because a car's impractical because of traffic or whatever. But then there's the final sort of category of motorcyclist, the one that I've eventually joined. You know, my motorcycle journey through time has been a long one, and I've fallen into both the traps of those previous categories that I've mentioned over the years. And I don't exactly know what the name for it is in order to describe it. I know, I'm going to call him the primeval biker. It's a guy that's still got the sort of caveman mentality dormant somewhere in his brain. And it might sound a bit silly, but I do believe that a true love of motorcycles comes from lives that our ancestors had. I'll try to explain. I'm not quite sure of the timeline, but 100,000 years ago, whenever it was, the first humans walked out of Africa, and from there they spread to just about every part of the world. Or so we're told. One thing that cannot be denied about the human race is that we are natural pioneers or explorers. And it's that curiosity about what lies over the horizon, or behind that mountain, or at the other side of that lake or ocean, that's propelled the human race into the sort of state of advancement that it's at now. But walking wasn't a particularly efficient way of getting around, and eventually we domesticated and mastered the horse. And for thousands of years, certainly since the Bronze Age, that was the preferred, most efficient way of getting around, of exploring, of pioneering. And there's no doubt about it, the human race has had a very special relationship with the horse, because a horse on its own is of no use. A rider without a horse is severely handicapped. But put them together, and you had a really efficient mode of transport. You could load it up with all your worldly goods, climb on board, and you could travel around the world, exploring and discovering new lands, new environments. And I think in some way that relationship between man and horse imprinted itself on the brains of some people, people with that sort of lizard element in the brains. Now, as time went on, that relationship became sort of more and more distant. The bicycle came along, the steam train came along, and eventually motorised personal transport. Now, there was the car, but of course some bright spark came up with the idea of putting an engine in a bicycle. A bicycle on its own, powered by the rider, is pretty limited in what it can do and how far it can travel in a day, but a motorcycle was a completely different proposition. And this is just my opinion, my perspective as a motorcyclist, but the motorcycle became the modern equivalent of the horse. Without its rider, it's useless, and without the motorcycle, the rider's handicapped. But put them together, and you have a relationship very similar to that of a horse. You have to look after it. It's got to be nurtured and cared for, just like a horse. And unlike a car, with a motorcycle, again, it's just like riding a horse. Rider and motorcycle must work in harmony, otherwise it all falls apart. But in the same vein, just like a horse, you can load it up with all your worldly goods to some extent, climb on board, and it will take you anywhere you want to go, and it'll do it quickly and efficiently, even better than a horse. And I basically think that motorcycles tap into that primeval memory that is perhaps ingrained in the DNA of some people. To me, riding a motorcycle is far more satisfying than driving a car. You feel more independent. It's just you and your bike against the world. A car's not like that. It doesn't give you the same feeling. I think it was Robert Persig that once said, travelling in a car is like watching a movie. Travelling on a motorcycle is like starring in that movie. And I think that sort of clinches it, really. A car is a box of glass and metal. You travel inside it. You're insulated from the outside world. You can't smell or feel the environment that you're moving in. In some ways, it's often like the landscape is moving past you rather than you're travelling through it. A motorcycle's different. You can feel every bump in the road. You can smell every smell that's in the atmosphere. You can feel the heat or the cold. The air that you're moving through pushes against your body. You know, you can feel everything. You are part of the landscape. The road is there right beneath your feet. If you take your foot off the foot peg, you can touch it. And there's no glass or metal to deaden the sounds of the countryside, of the landscape, or block your view when you turn your head. It's a more primeval, a more guttural form of transport that I think just appeals to certain people. Not everybody, granted, but it taps into some sort of genetic memory from our ancestry. Or at least that's how it feels for me. That's what has always attracted me to motorcycles, and that's what's kept me riding over the years. Now, some people might disagree with this. Some people, maybe that's not the reasons they ride. But it's like I said earlier on, my motorcycle journey through time has been a long one, and I've gone off at tangents along the way to the point where I'd sort of reached a dead end and I just wasn't enjoying motorcycles anymore. It was my decision to downsize with motorcycles that eventually led to that epiphany, if you like. Once I'd taken fashion, ego, power and speed out of the equation, it laid open the pure nature of motorcycling. Once all those distractions had been removed, that's when I finally sort of got what it is about motorcycling that, has kept me biking all these years. And I think if I hadn't have made that move, probably 7 or 8 years ago, I may well have given up biking, because I just felt as though I'd gone as far as I could. Over the years, like everybody, I've had my ups and downs financially, and I've had to sort of get rid of large, fast, expensive motorcycles, and for a while ride around on small rat bikes. And those rat bikes, second-hand rusty heaps, over the years provided me with my fondest memories of motorcycles. Not the big bikes. It was the basic, modest motorcycles that imprinted on my psyche the most. In fact, maybe, although I didn't realise it at the time, it was the experience of those motorcycles that kept me on bikes. I just needed to mature a bit to come to that realisation. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and listen to me rambling on for 18 minutes. I really do appreciate you putting that time aside to listen to me ramble twice a week. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like. I will of course be back next week, so until then, please ride safely, and I'll see you soon.